Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight, a clash in the Senate between the AG and PLP chairman over the wedding debacle. We've got the story. Tighter restrictions on Exuma. Residents react. Plus, the struggle of virtual learning for youngsters.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News and thank you for joining us. I'm Kyle Joachim. Top of news tonight, Attorney General Carl Bethel and PLP Senator Fred Mitchell clashed in Parliament this morning over government's enforcement of COVID-19 restrictions and who is punished for committing violations. The argument escalated after Mitchell brought up the controversy surrounding a wedding that Bethel's son stood as a groomsman in last week.
What I say conduct is, brought into
what has
question
happened now is
whether you complied with the law.
Because the person who violated the law happens to be his relative, and that's why he's making all of this noise.
A heated back and forth in the Senate today between Attorney General Carl Bethel and Leader of Opposition Business Fred Mitchell. It started when Mitchell asked for clarification on the law governing penalties for COVID violations. However, things got ugly when Bethel hit back at Mitchell, saying he should be the last person bringing up the issue.
What he was photographed in was not a hotel restaurant.
I'm on a point of order.
Okay? That was on the Alakaya Strip. I know that restaurant. He broke it, and he was sitting there with his mask under his chin, talking with someone, some man, who don't live with him.
No law. I broke no law. And this is a red herring. What I asked the minister is, will he explain the conduct of this infamous wedding which has taken place? This ain't about me. It's got nothing to do with me.
Mitchell was speaking about the wedding of a Ministry of Health Communications officer. The Attorney General's son was a groomsman. Photos showed more than 10 people in attendance at the wedding, as well as members of the bridal party wearing no masks and standing close together. Those persons were fined amid backlash.
As to the infamous wedding, I have never made any comment to anybody in authority on this matter, period.
Mitchell insisted that he broke no laws when he re-entered the Bahamas from the U.S. several months ago.
You have a responsibility as a minister of the government to explain what happened at this infamous wedding. That's what you have to do.
I have no
obligation
or responsibility to explain anything. The law has taken its course.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. The law has
Except
taken...
for you.
No.
Except with you.
No.
No one was man enough to go and charge you.
After being asked to withdraw a statement about Mitchell, which was deemed personal, the AG then went on his phone and doubled down on his claim that Mitchell violated emergency orders.
Would you explain this photograph, sir?
I don't have anything to explain to you.
Exactly.
And
you told the press that too.
So then,
and you told the press that too.
You told the press that too.
What I
have
say
withdrawn the imputation.
What I say is,
I have withdrawn the
an allegation
imputation
of unlawful behavior.
I said I have withdrawn the imputation.
Well, the ruling is that the personal information has been withdrawn by the...
Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis announced a string of restrictions for Exuma after that island experienced an explosion of COVID-19 cases. Jared Higgs has more.
New restrictions came into effect on mainland Exuma today after health officials reported a spike in cases on that island.
Following the October holiday weekend and two major social events.
The new restrictions were announced by Minnis on Wednesday night and include a weekday curfew from 6 p.m. to 5 a.m. and a 24-hour weekend curfew starting at 6 p.m. Friday and ending at 5 a.m. on Monday. Businesses will not be permitted to operate on weekends. However, commercial activity may continue as normal with the following exceptions.
Fish fries, bars, and restaurants connected to bars will be closed. Private and public social gatherings are not allowed.
Funerals and weddings will also be limited to 10 people, not including the officiant. Repasses and receptions are prohibited. Church services will have to be conducted virtually and
in-person classroom instruction is also prohibited, but may take place by virtual means.
Domestic travel in and out of Exuma has also been prohibited, except in emergencies and where approved by the Director of the Civil Aviation Authority or the Chairman of the Bahamas Maritime Authority.
Anyone traveling from Exuma to any other island in the Bahamas will be required to have a negative COVID PCR testing.
The island has recorded 30 new cases in the past week, and 2 of those cases are hospitalized. Minnis says there has been 1 recorded death. Health officials will travel there tomorrow.
A team consisting of contact tracers and members of the surveillance unit will be deployed to Exuma this coming Friday for further assessment.
Minnis acknowledged that the restrictions were short notice, but says the measures are necessary to stop possible spikes on other islands. The measures do not apply to the Exuma Keys. This announcement comes days after new restrictions, including a 24-hour weekend curfew, were announced for Eleuthera. Minnis says all positive cases on that island have been identified and quarantined, along with their contacts. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
Well, amid a rise in COVID-19 cases on Exuma, the island's Member of Parliament Chester Cooper has announced plans to launch free COVID testing in his constituency in short order. It's something the opposition has been lobbying for the government to look into, getting a true picture of how many people have COVID-19. Georgia Bain has more.
Opposition leader Philip Brave Davis weighing in on those newly implemented restrictions for the island of Exuma, calling the new restrictions silly.
Last night, the Prime Minister announced a weekend lockdown and nightly curfew, among other things, for Exuma amid a spike in COVID-19 cases. Davis called the tighter restrictions sickening.
It is sickening that we continue to have these confused, chaotic, and thoughtless measures. Right, with no education, with no explanation as to why. To say that they are necessary because of the rise in the cases, that's not sufficient.
The PLP has been advocating for free testing in an effort to determine the COVID-19 status of Bahamians who may have the symptoms but cannot afford to get tested. Exuma Member of Parliament Chester Cooper says he will lead the way and expects to launch free testing on the island by next week.
In Exuma, next week, we're looking at options to ensure that persons who wish to be tested can be tested free of charge. So we're looking at our resources at the moment to see whether we can set up a temporary clinic at the community center in Georgetown, perhaps on Tuesday and Wednesday. We will announce the specific details shortly.
Cooper said while the rapid rise in cases on Exuma is very troubling and some restrictive measures may be warranted to slow the spread, he does not support full weekend lockdowns. He asserted lockdowns are too blunt an instrument, and the island was just beginning to experience some relief on the tourism front after months of lingering in the economic doldrums. The Exuma MP said emergency measures have gone too far, adding consideration must be given to the fact that Exuma is a tourist destination.
We have only just begun to attract tourists from abroad. In particular, we have international flights coming in on Saturdays from North Carolina and elsewhere. And it's important that we build a brand. It's important to the international business community and the airline industry that there is predictability.
Cooper also claimed that the results of tests are taking too long to come back. The island's hospital is understaffed and its employees are overworked. He urged his constituents to continue to wear masks and practice social distancing. Reporting for Our News, I'm Georgia Bain.
In other news, Grand Bahama is about to see brighter days, according to Minister of State for that island, Kwesi Thompson, who revealed the Grand Lucayan Resort will see progress soon, despite a delay due to COVID-19. With more on this, here's Shalene Gray.
The government plans to turn over the keys to the Grand Lucayan Resort by the end of the year, according to Minister of State for Grand Bahama, Kwesi Thompson. The deal was inked earlier this year, and though COVID-19 has delayed plans, Thompson said Royal Caribbean and the ITM Group remain committed to the project.
Although it will be delayed due to COVID and Hurricane Dorian, we are currently reviewing their post-COVID-19 development plans and hope to fully turn over the hotel property before the end of this year.
That deal was for the sale of the Grand Lucayan and the construction of a new cruise port. However, Dorian and COVID delayed the project, causing the company to submit amendments to their timelines.
Dorian brought its own challenges with respect to moving ahead with the deal. Then came COVID, and as you may be aware, the cruise ships are a huge part of the entire Grand Lucayan deal, for the hotel portion of it, as well as for the new cruise port portion of it. They have put forward some amendments to the timelines, and those amendments will require us to take a close look at those amendments. And that is what is presently being done now.
Thompson said 35 people are still employed with the resort, as all others were terminated in preparation for the turnover. Meanwhile, he commended the more than 150 Bahamians working on renovations at the Rand Memorial Hospital. As that island continues to battle rising numbers of COVID-19 cases, Thompson heralded the progress being made, which includes the addition of 7 beds to their COVID-19 wing.
The hospital will begin to have some normalcy by late November, early December.
The main hospital entrance, isolation center, ICU, and medical wards are all near completion, while the pediatric wing is expected to be up within the next 2 weeks. Dorian devastated that facility, leaving the island's premier medical center handicapped. $21 million has been allocated for the hospital's renovation. According to Thompson, the officials are assessing the best place to build a new state-of-the-art hospital. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
This segment was sponsored by Our Islands, Our Future, who remind you to sign the petition on their website, ourislandsourfuture.org, to stop oil drilling in the Bahamas.
Festival Place is no more. The vibrant and colorful tourist attraction has been demolished as part of Nassau Cruise Port Limited's $250 million Prince George Wharf redevelopment project. For years, Festival Place was the welcoming point for cruise visitors arriving in Nassau. It was also the first point of contact for Bahamian businesses and tourists coming in. Aerial images captured by Our News show the flattened facility. Global Port Holdings is spearheading the project under a 25-year management agreement that will see the waterfront revitalized for businesses and visitors. The transformation will include a waterfront park, harbor village, a new inner harbor, amphitheater, and Junkanoo Museum. Government signed a $250 million heads of agreement with Nassau Cruise Port in 2019. The deal was described as marking the beginning of the revitalization of downtown Nassau. Grand Bahama recording 38 new cases of COVID-19, according to the Ministry of Health, which also confirmed 23 new cases on New Providence and 1 additional case on the Berry Islands. They bring the total number of new COVID cases to 64. Officials also revealed that a 46-year-old man on New Providence died on Tuesday, bringing the total number of COVID deaths to 155. 29 deaths are currently under investigation. 28 cases are hospitalized. 3 of them are in the intensive care unit. Well, we've got a lot more news, but first, meteorologist Greg Thompson give us a first look at our weekday weather forecast. Good evening, Greg.
Thanks, Kyle. I'm meteorologist Greg Thompson with your first look at weather. Outside our studios, pretty nice improved conditions across the area. Partly cloudy skies, your winds out of the southeast at 11 knots, feels like temperature 82 degrees, with the actual temperature in the low 80s. Satellite-wise, much improved conditions, as I mentioned, across the islands. We do still have a trailing trough out of Tropical Storm Ada that is still swinging across the northwest Bahamas. Some showers and thunderstorms associated with that will affect the northwest Bahamas tonight through tomorrow. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come, the Senate passes the Bail and Juries Act. Plus, why younger learners are finding it harder to adapt to virtual learning. Stay tuned.
So the project really pays itself back.
Correct.
They set up
at the conference, the school.
As a journalist, I always have to focus on the facts, and sometimes that means going to investigate for myself. On the Record, Thursdays at 8 p.m. right here on RTV.
Senators debated and passed the Bail and Juries Amendment Act unanimously today. The Bail Amendment Act increases the jurisdiction of magistrates to grant bail in certain cases. Attorney General Carl Bethel says the move corrects years of injustice.
It gives us great, we are privileged to re-empower the magistracy with the power to grant bail in appropriate cases and to correct what really could in a number of cases in the third schedule have been injustices where persons were charged with comparatively minor offenses that really didn't require them to spend 3 days in a lockup waiting for a judge to be available to give them bail.
Opposition Senator Jo Beth Colby Davis agreed and said the amendments are long overdue.
The law is not in place to create and make criminals out of our young men or women. As a matter of fact, the law does not exist to unintentionally make anyone a criminal. Justice should be swift and justice should be fair. And part of our duties in this place is to ensure that we stand in support when there are laws that were so erroneous in their efforts that they have done more harm to members of our society than any good.
When schools on New Providence closed their doors to face-to-face learning back in September, some of the country's youngest learners were hit the hardest. Christina Dragovich tells us more in tonight's edition of In This Together.
In September, Happy Tots Academy was eager to welcome its newest group of 2 to 4.5-year-old learners. For many students, it was the first experience in a classroom. Pencils were sharpened, hand sanitizer stations filled, and social distancing stickers were carefully placed. But all of the preparation went out of the window on the first day of school.
We had like about 40-something children that registered, and the first week of school, only 8 children showed up.
Betty Cadet is the director of Happy Tots Academy. The school waived registration and other fees to make back to school easier on struggling families. It still wasn't enough.
They are coming from low-income families from like the Baintown, the Anglican, this community here in the shanty towns, right? They are already at a disadvantage because they are low income. Some of them were one-income families going down to 0.
Cadet's Preschool is a small business that is susceptible to huge losses when closed for extended periods of time, especially when Happy Tots, like other schools across the nation, invested heavily in safety protocols for students and staff before the school year began.
We had to pay for the plexiglass, the hand sanitizer machines.
What were some of the other measures that you put in place to keep the teachers safe also?
All the teachers then have to wear shields, and once we are doing instructions, they will come to school with their shields and their masks up, but once the instructions are being taught, then they will just take off their mask, but they will have to have their shields on.
At the other end of the dilemma is a working mother of one.
My name is Marty Day. I have a 3-year-old little boy.
Marty Day says her son was excited to start school in July. He completed 2 weeks of summer school before a lockdown was introduced in August.
And the 2 weeks of summer school, you saw like this little change where he was happy to go to school and he was just getting, involved in school. And then, of course, that shutdown changed everything.
Day got her son a private tutor so he wouldn't miss out on early learning opportunities. She knows it is a luxury, but believes that education shouldn't have to be. With no end in sight to the pandemic, families and educators are doing what they can to adjust to the new normal. Reporting for Our News, I'm Christina Dragovich.
All right, thanks, Christina. Still to come, what a local physician is doing to reduce the number of diabetics getting amputations. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
A group of local medical professionals is launching Project Leap and Foot Care, an initiative designed to provide simple and safe methods in diabetic foot reconstruction using minimally invasive foot surgery. The first step for Dr. Danny Johnson and Associates is to start affordable mini clinics on November 14th ahead of World Diabetes Day.
We're launching today a new product that you will see all over the world soon called Foot Care RX Mini Clinics. Foot Care RX mini clinics. Ms. Poitier knows about this. It's getting people in before the end of the week. It's innovation and intervention that week. They must be better before the week ends. It is cheap. It's $50. That's what I learned from Dr. Roberts. Anyone in Nassau could find $50.
Johnson said it is his hope that the clinics will reduce the loss of limbs due to diabetes because of a lack of affordable health care. He said 1 in 15 diabetics require amputation.
We have 5 doctors available, some real specialists. If you need them, you could see them. But we have a team of about 10 staff now, expert in this arena, and they're here to serve you. So really want you all to pay attention to what's happening out there in the world, what's happening now in the Bahamas. The Foot Care RX is now on the scene as of today at noon.
The Rotary Club of New Providence partnered with AML Foods Limited, the Royal Bahamas Police Force Grove Division, and the Neighborhood Watch to provide 100 bags of groceries to Yellow Well residents today. Past President Valentino Hamilton says AML Foods matched the Rotary Club's donation.
Firstly, in Rotary, our theme for this year is Rotary opens opportunities. So we would have been faced with a pandemic, and like everyone else, rather than see it as something negative, we looked at it as an opportunity to create new partnerships with the police, with AML, with the Yellow Elder Neighborhood Watch. One person can only do so much. 2 persons can only do so much. When we all get together, we can do more.
Rotary Club also donated 20 tablets to 3 schools in the community. AML Foods marketing manager Melissa Major says they enjoy giving back.
All of our AML brands, we are actually very involved in our communities. So especially during this time of the whole pandemic, we realized that, you know, we've went above, we've actually increased in terms of everything that we've been doing community-wise.
And that's a look at news. Marcellus Hall is talking all things sports after this. Stay tuned.
Just when you thought the year would end drought, Rev came through with Magic and Holiday Chill. Our cashback will double, making more spirits rise, with chances to spin and with a dope random prize. The rules are quite simple. You can find them online. Just sign up for Trio and pay your Rev bill on time. Our grocery store dash is sure to bring smiles as 16 lucky winners tear through the aisles. Call 601-8992 or visit rev.vs/promotions to find out how you can win with Rev's Field of Magic giveaway. Rev, you and us, together.
In sports, a pivotal divisional battle kicks off in the NFL during Thursday Night Football. Marcellus Hall has that.
Well, it's Thursday once again, which means NFL fans gearing up for the start of another week of NFL action. Tonight, a pretty good one, the AFC South battle between the Tennessee Titans as they go up against the Indianapolis Colts. The Indianapolis Colts and Tennessee Titans will be the 2 teams going head-to-head in tonight's Thursday Night Football contest as Week 10 gets underway. Colts QB Phillip Rivers needs just 4 yards to pass Dan Marino for 5th on the NFL career passing list. Rivers is also making his 233rd consecutive start. He's thrown for just over 2,000 yards on the season with 10 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Meanwhile, Titans QB Ryan Tannehill has been playing extremely well, complemented by AFC leading rusher Derrick Henry. Tannehill has thrown 19 touchdowns and just 3 interceptions on the year. Henry with 182 carries for 843 yards and 8 rushing TDs. Colts currently at 5-3. They are second in the AFC South, trailing the Titans, who lead the division at 6-2. And we'll, of course, give you details on tonight's matchup coming up for you tomorrow right here on RTV. Also, a quick reminder to gear up for tomorrow's episode of The Locker Room, which, of course, is our sports commentary show, only available right here on RTV and on Our News Facebook page every Friday at 6:30. Reporting for Our News, I'm Marcellus Hall.
And that's a look at news. We throw it back to meteorologist Greg Thompson for the extended weather forecast.
Thanks again, Kyle. Our second look at weather tonight is being brought to you by Bahamas First. What's first for you comes first for us. Outside on the satellite view, we still have that trailing trough out of Tropical Storm Eta that's hanging across the northwest Bahamas. Some showers and thunderstorms associated with that will affect the northwest Bahamas as the system continues to pull towards the north. The National Hurricane Center also watching an area down near the Central Caribbean that has a very high chance for some formation over the next couple of days. Your boating forecast for the northwest and central Bahamas tonight through tomorrow. Southeast to south winds, 15 to 20 knot seas running 4 to 6 feet over the ocean. While in the southeast Bahamas, your winds will be out of the east to southeast, 15 to 25 knots. Rough seas at 5 to 8 feet. Low tide will be at 11:20 tonight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look now at your extended forecast through Tuesday. That's a look at our weather. Have a safe night, everyone.
Now your Royal Fidelity Market Recap takes a look at today's markets.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by Royal Fidelity, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
Well, thank you for joining us for Our News Tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Kyle Joaquin. Stay tuned for a brand new episode of On the Record with host Jerome Sawyer. Have a good evening, Bahamas.